Hi, this is Josh from Federal Signal Tech Support. So today, we are going to talk all about horn ring. What horn ring is when you have a siren tone active. When you press the horn or steering wheel pad, you could either cycle through various tones, sound the air horn, a manual tone, and so on. With this video, I am going to show you A, how it is wired, B, how it is programmed on a keypad with the rotary knob, a 17-button control head, and the handheld control head. Using what you will learn today, this will also apply to the other various keypads that can be used, depending on if it has a rotary knob or just buttons. So, without further ado, let's get started. So before we even start programming the horn ring function, we would need to wire it. So if you look at the rear of your Pathfinder amplifier, there should be a 14-pin harness. The harness that has the thinner wire, not the thicker wire. On this harness, you will see two wires. The white wire and the white with yellow wire. The white wire is for your horn or horn relay. The white with yellow is for your horn ring, and that would go to the steering wheel pad. This wire here, the wire that runs from the steering wheel pad to the horn on the actual vehicle, would need to be cut. And the white wire would splice in to the horn side or horn relay side. And the white with the yellow wire would splice in to the steering wheel pad side or horn ring side. Now with the white wire, you would have to make sure that your vehicle's horn is not exceeding 5 amps. If by any chance it is exceeding 5 amps, you would have to use an external relay on that white wire, so it will allow you to go over the 5 amp threshold to complete the circuit. So if by any chance you must use an external relay on that white wire, please refer to the relay pinout below. I'll give you a second to pause and just look at this pinout here. Okay, so once that is done and all your wiring has been verified, the next thing you would have to do is open up the Federal Signal configuration software. Now, you need to go to Edit Hardware, first off. It's right underneath the keypad. And then go to your amplifier, which is on the left-hand side. Select it. And you would need to determine your horn ring polarity. It could either be battery or ground. And after you program it, it'll actually change the polarity of that white with yellow wire, depending on how your vehicle is set. In this example, we are going to use ground for our polarity. So once that is verified, go ahead and click continue on the left. We are first going to start with a keypad with the rotary dial. So there is this very useful tool built into the software that will simplify programming the horn ring. If we go to tools on the top here, and then siren tone configuration wizard. If you follow the instructions and what you prefer, it should set up your horn ring programming for you. So let's go through the arrows here. So let's start. Now, starting off, the tones will start when the slide switch is in position. So you could have it that could be active all the time, or only have it active on a slide switch. More often than not, it would just be either slide 2 or slide 3. More often than not, slide 3. Now, you have an option when the vehicle moves to park, the siren will A, either kill tones, or B, do nothing. But based off my experience, they want the siren to be killed using the park input. So we're just going to check kill tones. Then there is an option when the slide switch moves to position 3. You can either have an override function, so in other words, the whale will automatically activate, or keep the existing rotary position. So we're just gonna use, because more often than not, you would want the siren to turn on at 3. So just check on override knob to hands-free. Then click the next arrow. Now, this is when, let's say you're on whale on the rotary knob, you can select what kind of whale you would like. With the siren tone configuration wizard, you have two options, SSP whale or unitrol whale. You're gonna pick SSP whale for this. And then when the horn is pressed, let's say you're on whale, you can play another tone for 8 seconds. More often than not, we just go to the next tone on the sequence. So it would be SSP yelp for speaker 1 and 2. If you have a PF 400 or 400Q, you'll have 2 more speakers to work with. Okay, and then click the next arrow. When you're in Yelp, again, you have 2 options, SSP Yelp and unitrol Yelp. We're going to do SSP Yelp. Again, when you press the horn when you're in Yelp, you'll play another tone for 8 seconds, so more often than not, we'll just go to the next tone in the sequence, which is SSP priority for speakers 1 and 2. Once that is done, this is where you would set up your horn cycle. So let's say you're in hands-free and you're on slide switch 3. When you press the horn, it'll cycle through usually 3 tones. So speaker 1, we're gonna do SSP whale, and speaker 2 SSP whale for step 1. Step 2 is usually Yelp. And then step 3 is usually priority. When the rotary is in tone 1, the siren will play. Usually tone 1 is SSP priority. And then when the horn is pressed, you can play another tone for 8 seconds. We'll just do a dual tone, SSP whale on speaker 1 and SSP yelp for speaker 2. Then when you are in tone 2, usually that is the dual tone again. whale and yelp. And then when the horn is pressed, usually we just go back to whale because we are at the end of the rotary knob. So we go back. Okay, next. And when you're in standby, usually that kills the tones. More often than not, you could is your preference. You could either do manual or air horn. More often than not, it's usually manual peak and hold. Okay, and once that's done, we just click apply changes. And we have everything set up. So as you can see, if you right click the horn input here, we have a whole bunch of horn clones automatically programmed, ready to go. And then all you have to do is click device on the top and then program device to dump the updated configuration into the amplifier. Can't get any more simpler than that. The siren tone configuration wizard is very useful if you're just setting up a basic horn ring option. Now we're going to move over to a 17 button keypad. Okay, so now we're going to program horn ring on a 17 button keypad. Now you cannot, unfortunately, use the siren tone configuration wizard on a keypad with no rotary knob. The siren tone configuration wizard only works on keypads with a rotary knob. So, with the 17 button or any keypad without the rotary knob, it would have to be done manually. So to start, always click Edit Hardware and just verify your horn ring polarity, which is the white with yellow wire. Remember, it could be battery or ground, depending on your vehicle. Once that is done, click Continue on the left. So now, next thing what we probably have to do is go to the various slide switches you want the horn ring to be active. So, in other words, when you press the horn when you're on slide 3, you'll have the horn cycle through the tones. Or, if you're on slide 2 per se, you just want a manual or air horn tone when you press the horn. You would just have to make sure that if you go to the siren tab on that horn ring transfer is checked on each of these. If it is not checked or checked off, you will get the regular horn instead of whatever's programmed on the horn input. So with that being said, we need to start creating our own horn clones. So usually what we do is start with air horn. So let's say, probably just rename this if you go to the top right here. We'll just rename it horn SS2 air horn. And then change the type to momentary. And then for our dependencies, we could just have SS2 is on. And usually we want the air horn in park, not drive. So we'll add another rule. And park is on. And you close that out, and then for your siren tab on this specifically, you can just put SSP air horn. for 2 channels, or if it's a PF 400 or 400Q, 4 channels. So that is our first clone. Oh, and another thing you would probably have to verify, go to System on the top, and then Input Grouping. Just make sure that at least your whale, yelp, and priority tones are in its own group. That'll make sure that only one tone will be active at a time. If you do not have these in a group, let's say when you press whale and then press yelp right after, both buttons will be active and both keypad LEDs will be on. We just want to make sure that it deactivates the other button once you go to the next tone. So that's why I always make sure it is in a group. Let's close that out. Let's move on to our next clone. So right click horn and click create feature. Here, we need to go to the properties icon again, top right with the gear icon. And then rename it to horn and whale. And then for your button dependencies, we'll have SS3 is on and whale is on. Like so. Once we are done with that, just close this out. Go to the remote activation tab and toggle on Yelp. Because when you're on whale and when you press the horn, it'll just cycle to the next tone, which is Yelp. Okay, and once that is done, right click the horn again, create another feature, go to properties again. We will rename this horn in Yelp. And if we go to our button dependencies, we will have SS3 is on and Yelp is on. Close that out. And then here, if we go to remote activation, we will toggle on priority. So when you are on Yelp, when you press the horn, it should cycle to the next tone, priority. Okay. Then we can move on to right click the horn again, create another feature. Go to properties again. You will rename this horn in priority. Go to your button dependencies. We will have SS3 is on and priority is on. And then if we close that out, we want it so it'll go back to whale when you press the horn. So we just simply toggle on whale under remote activation. Okay, and then when that is done, what we need to do, my mistake, priority. What we need to do now is right click horn again and create feature again. We would need to make a step, so when you double tap the horn, it'll stop the tones and turn off any keypad LEDs on those tones. So we'll go back to properties here. We'll change this to a step. And we'll do 3 steps. And this is the important part. Check on double press to stop steps. And we will rename this horn double tap. And then we shouldn't have any dependencies here. Should be good. Now we need to create a virtual now. So you could use any of the 16 virtuals here. But what we need to do is, in this example, we're going to use virtual 1. We're going to rename this. Go to properties here. Tones off. What that will do, it'll kill the siren tones with using this virtual on the double tap. So with that, we can close this out. And we'll just toggle off any tones that were in the horn ring per se. Minus air horn, of course. So we'll just toggle off whale, toggle off yelp, and toggle off priority. Like that. Once that is complete, we go back to our clones, right click the horn, and go to horn, double tap. Go to our steps, and then step off. We will simply toggle on, tones off, under step off. Okay, once that is done, we need to create another horn clone, which is, if we create feature, right click, we will rename this horn start. With this one, we need to go to our dependencies and add when whale is off and yelp is off and priority is off and slide switch 3 is on. Close this out. We toggle on whale under remote activation. And now what we need to do is we need to go to the various tones here, whale, yelp, and priority. Start with whale. We need to toggle off the tones off virtual under remote activation on each of these tones. So starting with whale, on, toggles off. Then we will go to yelp, same thing, remote activation, toggles off. And then priority, again, remote activation, toggles off. Last but not least, what we need to do is go to slide 3 have whale toggling on, which we do. And then in the opposition for slide switch 3, it should turn blue. Have tones off, toggles on. So kill any siren tones when you're out of slide switch 3. So once that is done, all we have to do now is check our priorities. If you go to System on the top and then Priority Settings. Anything that is not being killed by park should be above park. That includes the remote and local PAs, manual air horn, the horn ring for slide switch 2 air horn, and then park. Anything below park is going to be killed when you're in park. So after all your priorities are verified, just close this out. And then you just go to device on the top and then program device to update the configuration into the amplifier. And that is all there is to it. Now we are going to move on to the handheld keypad. Okay, now we are going to program the horn ring on a handheld keypad. So to start, let's go ahead and click Edit Hardware and go to your amplifier on the left and just verify your polarity for the horn ring white with yellow wire. So it could be either battery or ground. In this example, we are going to use ground. So after that is verified and all your wiring looks good, just go ahead and click Continue on the left. Now, programming this on a handheld is very similar to the 17 button. Of course, it'll depend on your configuration, but I have Yelp and Priority as dedicated buttons. And remember, slide switch 1, 2, and 3 are buttons on the handheld, which is usually the top 3 buttons. So to start, just make sure horn ring transfer is checked on button 2 or slide switch 2, and button 3 or slide switch 3. Just make sure horn ring transfer is checked on underneath the siren tab. Once that is done, in this example, we are going to create a virtual for whale because obviously we do not have enough buttons to work with. So we're just going to simply create a tone virtual. We'll just rename it whale here. Then we can just change this to push on off. Close this out. And should have SSP whale for your channels. And once that is done, we should have a whale virtual, a Yelp, and priority button. So with that being said, we just need to go to System on the top and then Input Grouping, and just make sure whale, Yelp, and priority is in one group. So that way only one function can be active at a time, and they'll make sure that nothing else activates with it. So once that is done, you close this out. Like so. Now, what we need to do is let's set up our horn ring functions. So what we need to do is let's start with the horn. Let's click that. Go to our properties icon. First thing we're going to do is program the air horn when you're on slide switch 2. So we'll just rename this horn SS2 air horn. And since it is an air horn, we just change the button type to momentary. And then button dependencies. You'll just have it So when slide switch 2 is on and park is on, you will have the air horn when you press the horn when you're on slide switch 2. Close that out. And we can simply program SSP air horn for channels 1 and 2, and 3 and 4 if you have a PO 400 or 400Q. So that is the very first one. Next, let's program our horn in Whale. So create feature. Rename it. Horn in Whale. Go to our button dependencies. Usually it's SS3 is on and Whale is on. But since we're using a virtual, we do not need anything here, so we just X that out. Because SS3 is going to remotely activate Whale, and that will be our Whale tone. So with this, go to Remote Activation tab and toggle on Whale. Oh, I'm sorry, Yelp. And then we create another feature. This one will be horn in Yelp. Go to our button dependencies. We will do SS3 is on and Yelp is on. Close that out. And this one, when you're on slide 3 and you press the horn, it'll go to the next tone, Yelp, and then priority. So we need to toggle on priority, like so. And then lastly, create a feature here. Name this one horn in priority. Button dependencies. We'll have slide switch 3 is on and priority is on. And for this one, we just simply have it go back to Whale, which is this virtual here. Okay, and once that is done, we need to set up our horn double tap. Create feature again. Go to our properties. Rename it horn double tap. Change it to a step for the button type. 3 steps is fine, and we need to kill the siren when you're on the horn ring. So to do that, we're gonna check on double press to stop steps. And this is where we need to set up our tones off virtual, similar to how we did on the 17 button keypad. So in this example, we're going to use virtual 2. Rename it tones off, like so. And have it so all the tones, so that is priority, Yelp, SS3, and Wheel. All toggles off. Once that is done, what we need to do now is go back and right click horn and then edit horn double tap, and then for the off position here, step off, we remotely activate tones off to toggle on. And that should be it. Now all we have to do is just make sure that if we go to slide 3, whale is toggling on under remote activation. And that whale toggles off in the off position, and tones off in the on position also toggles off. And that is it on the handheld. Last thing we need to do is go to system on the top here, and then priority settings. Always make sure ignition is in the #1 spot. And anything not supposed to be killed by park, so we'll drag park at #2. PAs will of course be above park. The air horn will also be above park. And then everything else will be killed by park kill. Like so. And then once all the priorities are verified, all you have to do now is just go to device on the top, and then program device to update the configuration into the amplifier. And that is all there is to it. We have officially programmed horn ring on 3 separate keypads. Now, you could use what you learned to program it on the other keypads, such as the 17 button with rotary dial. That one, you could use the siren tone configuration wizard because it has the rotary knob on the keypad. Now, if it's any keypad that has just the buttons, no rotary dial, you would have to do it manually, which I just showed you. So hopefully you learned something. So if you have another keypad, you could replicate what we've done here today. So yeah, I hope this helped. And if you have any questions, feel free to call our tech support line at 1-800-433-9132, option 1. Or alternatively, you can send us an email at fedsigsig.com. Thanks for watching, and until next time, see you later.